There are places that feel wrong the moment you arrive. Not dangerous, not obviously abandoned, just wrong. A silence that seems too complete. Streets too empty for the hour. Curtains that move though no one is there. People who smile half a second too late. The sort of place where normality feels rehearsed. Tell me something, have you ever visited a town that seemed to be waiting for you? Not welcoming you, waiting. As though your arrival completes something. Because places remember, long after people forget. They remember footsteps, arguments, births, deaths, promises made in doorways, names carved into old wood. Some towns hold history like dust, others hold it like a wound. And tonight's episode begins in a place where memory did not merely linger, it took root. 6 first-person confessions, 6 witnesses, 6 descents into a town that should not still exist. A place where houses remember their occupants. Roads return travelers to streets they never chose. Church bells ring for people who have already died. And the most terrifying part? No one inside the town seems aware that anything is wrong. By the final story, the question will no longer be whether the town is haunted. The question will be, who is left alive enough to leave it? Dim the lights, listen carefully. And if you ever find yourself driving through a place that does not appear on your map, do not stop. Welcome to episode 19, The Town That Forgot It Was Dead. My name is Jonah Mercer, or at least, that is the name the town keeps insisting belongs to me. If you have been with me since the beginning of this episode, then you already know where this is going. The road that disappeared, the bells that rang only for the living, the church tower, the man with my face, the accusation, you left us here. What I did not understand then was that Mercer was no longer merely remembering the dead, it was beginning to rewrite the living. And the first place I understood that was the cemetery. After the bells rang, the sound rolled across the valley in long, aching waves. Not loud, not violent, worse, ceremonial, like something old had finally been awakened. The townspeople below the tower did not flinch, did not speak. They simply lifted their faces toward the sound as if listening for a name. Then, one by one, they turned toward the cemetery behind the church and began walking, slow, measured, all of them moving in the same direction. I followed because by then it no longer felt like a choice. That is the terror of places like Mercer. It does not command you, it absorbs your decisions, until following the crowd feels like the only natural thing left. Tell me something. Have you ever been somewhere that made your own instincts feel borrowed? That was what the town had begun doing to me. The cemetery sat on a rise behind the church, half wrapped in fog. Iron gates. Stone angels weathered smooth by decades of rain. Headstones leaning at tired angles. Some so old the names had almost vanished. And yet the moment I stepped through the gate, I felt something shift. The air grew colder, sharper, the silence thicker. The sort of silence that makes every footstep feel disrespectful. Then I saw them, fresh graves, 6 of them. So new the earth still looked dark and wet, mounds of turned soil, no flowers, no mourners, just neat rows waiting beneath the fog. At first, I thought they must belong to recent deaths. But then I stepped closer and read the names. The first stone read, Jonah Mercer, 1926-1956. My blood went cold, not because of the name, because of the birth year, exactly 100 years before mine. Tell me honestly, if you found your own name carved into a grave in a town that should not exist, what would you tell yourself first? Coincidence? Family relation? Or something far worse? I moved to the next grave. The name there made my knees weaken. It belonged to my mother, alive, still living in Bristol. I had spoken to her 3 days before this trip. Yet there it was, full name, birth year correct, no death year, just a blank dash after the date, as though the stone was waiting. The third, my younger sister, same thing, name, birth date, blank ending. Then the fourth, my ex-fiancée, a woman I had not spoken to in years, again, birth year, blank ending. Every person who had ever emotionally defined my life, every person whose memory carried weight, carved into stone, incomplete. Tell me something. If a grave waits for a death that has not happened yet, is it prophecy or invitation? I turned to the crowd. The townspeople stood just beyond the rows of graves, watching, faces unreadable. The silver-haired motel woman stepped forward, then said something that still echoes in my head. The town remembers everyone you ever carried with you. I asked what that meant. She smiled in a way that contained no comfort, then replied, "Memory is how places keep people." The words struck something deep, because Mercer no longer felt like a physical location. It felt cognitive, a place made of retained grief, a geography built from memory and unfinished guilt. And then I saw the sixth grave. No name, only a single line carved into the stone, for the one who returns last. Tell me honestly, if a place seems to know the people who matter most to you, what part of you has it already entered? I should tell you something now. Up to that point, I still believed escape was possible, that this was some kind of shared delusion, a trauma response. Perhaps I had crashed on the road and was hallucinating. Perhaps I was unconscious somewhere. The mind reaches for rationality even while terror dismantles it. Then the graveyard proved it was no hallucination, because I saw someone standing among the stones, my sister, Emma, wearing the same navy coat she had on when I last saw her, rain beating on the shoulders, hands folded before her. She looked directly at me and said, "You still haven't told them what happened." My throat closed, because it was her voice, her exact voice. But there was something wrong. Her eyes did not move, no blinking, no breath visible in the cold. Stillness, like a perfect memory given shape. I stepped toward her. She stepped backward behind the graves, always maintaining distance, always just beyond reach. Then she said, "You didn't leave alone. Tell me something. What is more frightening? A ghost? Or a person made entirely from memory who knows what you refuse to remember?" The cemetery began giving back pieces, not clearly, not in sequence. Fragments, a car, rain, a cliff road, headlights cutting through fog, Emma in the passenger seat arguing, crying, a sharp turn, the sound of tires slipping on wet gravel, and then impact, glass, silence. The memory hit like physical pain. I staggered, because suddenly I realized why the name on her grave had no death year. Because I had not checked, I had not called home since entering Mercer. I had no proof she was alive. The last time I had seen her was months ago. After the accident, after the fight, after I drove away. Tell me honestly, if a place forces you to confront the memory you have avoided most, is it haunting you or judging you? The priest appeared beside the gate, silent as fog, then said, "The town only keeps what the living refuse to bury." That sentence broke something open. Mercer was not merely haunted. It was constructed from unresolved memory. Every street, every face, every ritual, built from guilt. And I was feeding it. Every recognition, every recovered fragment, every name. The more I remembered, the more solid the town became. The fog thickened, the church lights brightened, the townspeople's faces sharpened, as if recollection itself was rebuilding them. Then the worst revelation came. At the far edge of the cemetery stood another headstone, half hidden in mist, freshly carved. I approached slowly, and read the inscription. Emma Mercer, 1999-2026. A full date, completed this year, 2 months ago. Tell me something. If the dead are waiting in a place made of memory, what happens when the person you loved most is already there? I heard her voice behind me. Real this time. Soft, breaking. "Jonah." I turned. She stood beside the blank grave. Wet hair, pale face, eyes filled with grief. And unlike the others, she was crying. Actual tears, she whispered. "You left me in the car." The memory returned in full. The crash, the ravine, my own blood, her hand reaching for mine, my panic, smoke from the engine, my seatbelt released. I climbed out. I ran for help. I never made it back in time. She died before rescue arrived. And some part of me had buried that truth so deeply that Mercer had become the place where it survived. A town built from the memory of everyone I had failed. The fog closed in tighter. The crowd stepped closer, and the empty grave waited. My name is Jonah Mercer, and by now, I no longer expect you to believe I'm telling this from anything resembling a normal reality. Because Mercer has stopped behaving like a place. It has started behaving like a recording that plays back only what you refuse to accept. The cemetery had just shown me Emma's name carved into stone, a date that should not exist, a death I had never fully admitted to myself. And when I turned away from that graveyard, the town was no longer empty. It was awake. At first it was light. That was the first wrong detail. Not darkness, not silence. Light, soft, warm illumination spilling out from the windows of every house in Mercer, as if someone had returned home early, as if evening life had resumed in perfect synchrony. Every building along the main street glowed faintly from within, curtains drawn but translucent, shadows moving behind glass, figures seated at tables, cooking, talking, existing. A town that had, moments earlier, felt abandoned, was now full of life. But not new life, recognizable life. Familiar silhouettes, familiar gestures, and that is when my stomach dropped, because I knew them. Tell me something. If you saw people you had lost inside windows of a town that should not exist, would you run toward them, or away? The first house I approached belonged to my childhood friend. Or rather, someone who had been my childhood friend before he died at 17. Car accident. Rain-slick road. Same story that gets told too many times in too many ways. But now he was inside that house, standing in the kitchen, pouring tea, turning his head exactly as he used to when he was about to laugh. I pressed closer to the glass. He looked up, saw me, and smiled. Not like a memory, like recognition, like continuity. Then he said something I could not hear through the window, so I stepped closer, and the glass fogged with his breath. He repeated it, clear this time. You always come back when it rains. Tell me honestly, if a dead friend speaks to you as if no time has passed, what part of you refuses to accept they are gone? I moved to the next house, Emma's house, or the version of it Mercer had constructed. The lights were on upstairs, curtains open just enough to see inside. And there she was, alive, walking across her bedroom, same movements, same rhythm, not the grave version, not the cemetery version, a version from memory before the crash, before everything fractured. She paused, looked directly at me through the window, and placed her hand against the glass, the exact way she used to when she wanted me to come inside after an argument, then mouthed something. I could read it perfectly. Don't leave this time. Tell me something. If a place offers you everyone you have ever lost, what exactly is it asking you to surrender? The houses continued down the street, each one lit, each one occupied, each one containing a life I had failed to hold on to. A colleague who quit and moved away, a neighbor who died quietly in hospital, a dog I'd grown up with, even faces I could not immediately place, but still felt emotionally attached to. Mercer was not recreating strangers, it was reconstructing emotional history, not accuracy, attachment. That is what made it so dangerous, because it did not need truth, only feeling. The town square had changed. The empty grave was gone, replaced by rows of chairs like an audience waiting, and in each chair figures sat, not townspeople, not living residents. These were the people from the houses, from the windows, from memory, from loss. They had left their rooms and gathered outside, all facing me, waiting. Tell me honestly, if every person you have ever grieved suddenly gathers in one place, do you call it a miracle or an intervention? The silver-haired woman from the motel stood at the center of the square. She looked exhausted now, less composed, as if maintaining the town had finally begun to cost her something. She spoke quietly, but her voice carried everywhere. You're destabilizing the boundary. I asked what boundary. She gestured around her, at the glowing houses, at the seated figures, at Emma standing near the edge of the square, then said, the line between remembering and bringing back. That was when I understood. Mercer was not simply a town, it was a mechanism, a system, a place where memory did not remain internal, it became physical, visible, persistent. The more I remembered, the more real it became. And now it was reaching critical mass. Tell me something. If grief becomes strong enough to construct reality, what happens to the present? The houses began flickering, not like light failing, like memory destabilizing. Inside one window, a woman I recognized as my aunt froze mid-step. Inside another, a man I had once worked with turned toward the glass with confusion. Emma pressed her hands harder against the window, her expression shifting, fear creeping in, as if she could feel herself beginning to fade. The silver-haired woman stepped closer to me, her voice dropped, almost pleading now. You have to choose what stays. I asked what she meant. She said, you can keep the town, or you can keep them. And that is when I realized the final truth. Mercer was not reviving the dead. It was holding them in place, anchoring them through my memory. But it could not sustain everything. The more I remembered, the more unstable it became. Some of them would remain, some of them would dissolve, and I would decide it without meaning to. Emma looked at me again, and for the first time, she did not smile. She looked afraid. Not of me, of disappearing. Tell me honestly, if remembering someone keeps them alive, what does forgetting make you? The town began collapsing into silence, the lights in the houses dimming one by one, figures flickering, faces breaking into static-like distortion, as if reality itself was losing signal. Emma reached toward me, her voice cracked. "Jonah, please, don't let me go twice." And I understood then, this was not resurrection, this was retention, and retention has limits. The square fell quiet, all eyes on me, every memory I had ever carried, waiting, choosing. And in that moment I realized something far worse. I was not just remembering Mercer. Mercer was remembering me back. Some places do not haunt you. They negotiate with you. They take your memories apart and ask which ones deserve to continue existing. And in doing so, they reveal something far more unsettling than ghosts. The fragility of identity itself. Because if a town can decide which version of your grief is real, then perhaps memory was never as private as you thought. Perhaps it was always something shared, something negotiated, something selected. So tonight, as you close your eyes, consider this carefully. If every memory you carry had to justify its existence, which ones would survive you, and which ones would not survive being remembered correctly? You've been listening to Mr. Haunting Whispers TV, where some places don't trap you. They decide what part of you gets to leave. Until next time, be careful what you remember too clearly, because somewhere out there might be a place waiting to agree with you.
You've been listening to Mr. Haunting Whispers, where every truth leaves a scar. If the story unsettled you, good. That means you were listening. Subscribe and stay close to the dark, because the next whisper might be for you.